Welcome to this week's Digging Deeper. You'll realise that it's me, Joy, talking about joy, which I think is David's sense of humour this week. Dan spoke brilliantly on Sunday, and I'm just going to pick up on a few of the things that he shared with us and try and go a bit deeper. And I want to do that from Philippians chapter 4, the passage that Dan referred to on Sunday. When we're thinking about joy, as Dan said, it's not the same thing as happiness. It's something that's a very different thing, and yet often mistakenly thought to be the same. Joy is a journey, not a destination. Joy is a process. We find joy as we dig deeper into our relationship with God. And so this particular short chunk of Paul's letter to the church in Philippians helps us to see how that process works. The first thing Paul says is, rejoice in the Lord always. And again, I say, rejoice. Clearly, he starts off this little section of the letter by saying joy is a choice. You choose to find and express and be centered in joy. It is a choice that we make in our spirits. And he goes on to unpack what that looks like. So how do we get to joy? How do we find ourselves on that journey? What is it that leads us there? Paul says, begin by being gentle. Be gentle with other people, and you will find joy in your relationships. The Lord is near. The simple fact of Jesus' presence with us, that is joyful. If we really fully understood and engaged with it, the presence of Jesus with us every day in every circumstance, then it will bring us joy. Don't be anxious, but pray about everything. Paul's not suggesting that we deny the hard times or difficult circumstances. But what he says is that when we pray, when we engage with the closeness, the presence of Jesus, then we'll find our conversations with him in prayer leading us to a deeper place of joy, a place where we're able to find joy in all circumstances. As we do that, we find God's peace coming into the circumstances. And our experience of joy is very closely tied up with our peace, because it's not about the circumstances changing, but it is about, as we find peace in our circumstances, then joy can flow out of that peace. And Paul goes on, and again, this is very much what Dan was saying on Sunday, that verses 8 and 9, whatever is true, noble, lovely, pure, admirable, excellent or praiseworthy, spend your time thinking about these things. Now, I wonder if there's just an opportunity for us in small groups or on our own or whatever place it feels right for us to do it in, to really prayerfully with Jesus consider, what are we spending our time thinking about? What TV programs are we watching? What are we listening to? And some of that stuff is about conversations with our work colleagues. Some of it is about other ways in which we listen. What are we absorbing? What are we spending our time dwelling on in our thought life? There is that sense in being close to Jesus and allowing him to shape what we spend our time thinking about will be the key to unlocking his joy. And then finally, Paul talks about the practice of modelling or mentoring. He says, whatever you've learned or received from me or seen me in me, put that into practice, and the God of peace will be with you. I wonder how many of us have those people in our lives that we can really pinpoint and say, that person helped me to know what it meant to be a Christian, or this person really developed my faith, really spurred me on, believed in me, encouraged me. Or perhaps there are people in your life who really model Christian joy, model joy in their relationship with God, and that inspires you or motivates you to grow in that particular practice and an example of Christian life. All of these things are ingredients. None of them are the only way in which we get to joy, but all of them are different paths, different ways in which we can experience God's joy in the journey of our life. We will have ups and downs. There will be moments or times when we feel particularly joyful or that joy comes easily. And there will also be times when it is hard for us to engage with joy, even if we feel close to God. But perhaps most of all, when we feel far away from God and far away from his joy. The key here, and the key from what Paul is saying to us, is that we push into Jesus in order to find joy. We choose the paths that he says will help us to get through the difficult circumstances and experience his joy as we do so. So let me encourage you to consider this passage, to pray over it, to discuss it, to think more about it, and to find in Jesus a greater measure of his joy in the process.